Well, floods, fires across the southern African region are raising alarm bells on climate change once again. Now, these effects are being felt across the globe as sea levels rise, tropical storms smash into coastlines, once fertile lands battle with floods of drought, and permafrost in the polar regions melt. Although Africa contributes relatively little to global warming, the region is indeed suffering from its effects. Over 180 million people in sub-Saharan Africa alone could die as a result of climate change by the end of the century. South Africa is in a strong position to lead. It can influence the battle against climate change, being an active member of the AU, a vocal member of the G77, and one of the 4 developing nations poised to become a southern engine of global economic growth. Its powerful combination of strong international leadership, progressive thinking and forward-looking policies are reflected in its calls for dramatic cuts in global greenhouse gas emissions and for mechanisms to help vulnerable countries adapt to the impacts of climate change. Well, Mr. Mkeli Ndambambi is a climatologist with the South African Weather Service, and we chat to him now from our Pretoria studios. Good afternoon, sir, and thank you for your time on the PM News Desk.
Good afternoon, Kishna, and good afternoon to the viewers.
Floods, droughts, fires across the southern African regions. Are we seeing firsthand the effects of climate change already?
Kishna, it's difficult to attribute one single event to climate change and climate variability. But I think we can be witnessing what have been predicted a couple of years ago, that we expect an increase in severity of weather and also the frequency of them happening and also their intensity. Hence, now it is important to focus more on the adaptation strategy, because these are expected to happen again with time. I think we have seen, Kishna, early in December already that the migration of what we call intertropical convergence zone, which is a major producing rainfall weather system, is not unusual, but it leads to breaking rainfall records. And then it caused widespread heavy rains over Zambia and affected Zimbabwe, Malawi, and Mozambique already. So I think these are still going to be happening.
Climate change is the biggest threat to nature and humanity in the 21st century. We're told it's nearly impossible to overstate the threat of climate change. Speak to us of its impact on southern Africa in terms of crop yield and dwindling natural resources.
Yes, Keshni, the climate change and variability impact, we need to accept it. We must not question it. Hence, it is very, very important to emphasize an importance of getting ready to cope with these impacts so that we can be able to adapt. Now, currently, I talked of the rainfalls during the December. On the 10th January, there was this tropical low-pressure system that was approaching the northern parts of Mozambique and getting closer to station over the northern portion around, I think, the town called Quilimane on the 11th. This is a kind of a low-pressure system that has been producing heavy rains. And the challenge with it, Keshna, is that it remained semi-stationary. But what is important, as a regional specialized meteorological center, South African Weather Service, on behalf of South Africa, we had about 3 to 5 days lead time giving severe weather guidance forecast for these southern African countries that were affected. So we do have the early warning systems that are assisting. And now this low pressure system, as we speak, has moved southeastwards towards Madagascar. As we speak, it's giving heavy rains over the Madagascar, but we don't expect heavy rains over Mozambique today. But tomorrow and Sunday, there's a risk of moderate heavy rains again over the northern parts of Mozambique, including southern Malawi, because this low pressure is going to come closer again. But what is also important to mention, Keshni, is that South African Weather Service have been in frequent contact with meteorologists in Mozambique during all this time of the heavy rains. So there's a very close working relationship, and even the flash flood guidance system that South Africa is hosting, which assists Southern African countries, it has been used by meteorologists in Mozambique to give flash flood warnings. But I think we also need now to focus more on the buildings that we are building, as we are the countries that are being affected, make these buildings more stronger, and also use the climatological data that we have. For example, in South Africa, we've got climatological data which is more than 115 years existing. So this information should be part of our planning question.
Mr. Ndambambi, we have some devastating images coming out of a southern African region. Unpredictable rainfall patterns, lower crop yields, soaring food prices, dwindling natural resources and so on, already causing increased human migration, tension, conflict. What can ordinary South Africans do to curb climate change at this point?
Yes. Keshina, you know, when we talk in the short term, I would like us not to use the word that they are unpredictable, because for these particular incidents now, floods that have been experienced in Mozambique, I just shared with you that the lead time was 3 to 5 days before they happen. I think, Keshina, to come to your question, my first attempt would be ordinary people now should be educated. There should be awareness, because even when the warnings are given in advance, you will find that they are not interpreted appropriately by ordinary people. So it should be the understanding first, then assuming that working with the disaster management authorities, they will be disseminated so that they get to them fast. And then after they are aware, they are able to interpret them, then there should be structures in place that are working with the community, disaster management, meteorologists, so that if there's a warning that has been issued, there's an understanding of what appropriate action can be taken, so that even the evacuation processes don't get resistance. Because you find at times the communities resist to be evacuated because they don't really understand this threat until they feel it.
Thank you. Mr. Ndambambi is a climatologist with the South African Weather Service. Thank you.